Hello everyone. I was going to show you what's underneath that canvas over wire pheasant that I'm going to make. I've rasped a little and made some notches and started putting on the wires. I actually did a video, but I didn't like where it went to. So I'm just going to do kind of a shorter video that explains a few of the points that I'd like to about this. And then this week I had an appointment that we'll talk about. You can see the wires kind of go at an angle on the body. I pre-drilled a hole. That's where it'll sit up on a actual leg foot for it to sit kind of like that when it's finished. But I wanted you to see what it looked like underneath. I was going to wait until I had the canvas on and about ready to paint, but there's a lot of things underneath that you should see, and kind of with everybody. But I had showed how you just pull these wires through. You have little notches in the frame to do it, and holes that just the two will fit both through, and you kind of yank them through, try to form the body. It's not formed completely great yet. I will do a better job of forming it, and at some point the body will become rounder and shaped nicer. Here's kind of a full body one that I did long time ago. I mean, like 20 years ago. That's larger and kind of like that, but that'll be where I'm going with this, sort of. Yeah, so I showed how to pull them in the other video that I didn't like after I got it done. I'm using just this, I think it's 12 gauge wire. It's a pretty soft, malleable wire. Easy to bend, almost too easy at times, but it helps. And that's when you get it, even though it is fairly easy to bend, once you get canvas over it, it's hard to bend it and knock it funny or anything. And this is going to be basically ornamental, so I don't know anybody that's going to be whacking it against anything. You shouldn't. No, so I was just going to show what it looks like underneath, and maybe by the time next time I'll have this all shaped the way and pretty, and then I'll get the head carved, and it's going to be really hot the next few days. I don't know if I'm going to do it then. I might be able to sit in the shade and do it outside so I don't get sawdust and chips all over other places. Yeah, and then I'll get the canvas on, and that'll explain a lot more. No, this week I had a appointment for something. I'm sure you've noticed that at times I will have some twitches and jerks. I've had that as long as I can remember. It's a lifelong thing. I mean, it might have started when I was 8 or 10 or what, I don't know. And it's a hereditary thing. Runs in the family. But that doesn't mean it's like we know how to deal with it. I know it's a fairly rare thing. No, it was nice going to a doctor who actually knew and acknowledged it, knew what, at least where it's in a family of what the cause is. I have to have a couple other things done, get an MRI soon, have some genetic testing probably done, because she does think it's genetic, and it is in the family, so I'm sure it's something. But it was something that I've always wanted to know, but for many years it was like kind of just not the thing that came up in the family, and And I don't think before just the last 10 or 15 years it really was that they could give you much of an answer. I know one of the traits of it is that alcohol helps. Not a great thing to have one of the, you know, most, effective drugs being alcohol on it. I have never been much of a drinker, though I drink a little, and I've never noticed that it helped me that much. Gets rid of my anxiety, does do that, which helps. But as far as stopping the twitches and jerks, I never noticed that much. If I did, I could see that I would have been somebody who would have drank. It would have been nice to be able to get rid of this. But anyways, she was a very good doctor, very pleased. I think we're on the right track, and we're trying some stuff, gonna see if it helps and try to figure out the actual answer. Where I got this is that this has really been something that for decades has bothered me. But it's hard to bring up and talk about. And it really took, hitting rock bottom with other things that got me to actually try to figure this out. It causes a lot of anxiety, and with that comes depression. You kind of can't have one without the other a little bit. And so I had a few days that were rough, like a week, and we all think we're so strong and we don't need other people, and we'll fight through this. And I tell you, there are times where you need to reach out, or you need to ask, those close to you if they can help you. It was tough to do, but it was very important for me that I did. And I was amazed at the weight that came off my chest when I asked for help, when I said I have some problems that I can't handle alone. It was just like, it didn't solve the problems. It just made it so I knew there was others that were worried about them with me, that there was some path forward. And they've done a great job in helping me find that path. We all need somebody. Might not think that you do, but it sure helps. I hope you all do have somebody that you can talk to about when things are really down. I didn't really think I did have that, but then I found out I did. And that was a very nice thing to learn. And this whole journey with this has helped me find some other new friends. Hope some of you out there listening to this are new friends. I know a couple of you are, and I'm very thankful to have you as new friends. I don't want to get down. Because it's tough for me to think of what I am now. I've recently found out, with the rheumatoid arthritis that I still have the medications. I think it's starting to help. I hope so. But I still wake up with some stiff joints, and my hand don't want to work all the time. My left hand today is not great. Sometimes my wrist is really bad. Sometimes my right thumb can be really bad. My shoulders can be bad. but it seems like it's getting better. So I'm hopeful with that. But that, and then that was something new, along with something old that's been there forever. Seems like, and you really need people surrounding you. You have to use those people if they will at all let you, and they should. If you're truly a friend to somebody, if you're truly family, you know, it just, I try to be there for others. I don't know if I can be always the way they wish I could, but just try. Um, it's a lot like this. There's a lot more underneath it than what you think. It isn't just quick putting wires around a canvas over it and that it's all gonna stay together and you quick paint it. The painting's actually the easy part. The quick part. It's getting it all right before so that there's a base to it that's solid, that can hold up, that that beautiful outside facade is just that, just a facade. It's got to have a solid structure. That's what I'm going for in this, and that's what I'm trying now to get to in life. I have not always been good at planning ahead, thinking ahead, trying to improve things about myself, and so that's where we're going with this. I would like to tell you that if you don't have friends and family that you can count on, there are other means out there to have somebody that will listen. There's very good people that'll counselors, therapists. I know I'm a bit of a hypocrite. I at one point would have thought, oh, if you needed a therapist or a counselor, somebody to help you through these tough times, that you must be weak or something, that, and maybe you are. Maybe I am. But I needed somebody that's a professional, that's seen these things before, that knows, can tell you, you can get through this. Here's the way. And it's weird how much that they say, and then you notice within the next week or two after being around them that what they said, things that pop up, and they probably always popped up, but you just never noticed the opportunities to change, the opportunities to reflect and, to make a difference. Kind of, they pop up a lot more often than I thought they would. Yeah, I gotta go in a few days. I gotta prove that I have a brain. I get do an MRI, and that'll, I think she believed me that I have a brain, but pictures are it didn't happen kind of thing. No, I'm just making sure that there aren't other causes to this, but then there'll be some genetic tests, and that's probably where we'll find out. But it's been something I've, every day of my life, I've thought about it, I've lived it. There's never a moment that really, there will be brief moments I forget almost about it, and then there's a twitch or a jerk or something that happens. and it just brings me right back. I had one for lunch today. I was cooking something, and cooking is one of the spots where it really bothers me. And I'll have people say, oh, I don't hardly notice it. I wouldn't know if you didn't tell me, and it's like, if it's not noticeable and it bothers me this much, that kind of is, that almost makes it worse. Makes me feel like I should have been able to handle it better. I just don't always, yeah. I wish it were not noticeable to me too. I mean, especially when I was doing this on the other one, I had several, while I was showing how to pull the wires through and stuff, I had several good twitches and jerks that, like there, I just had one with my head. And nothing I can control. I can maybe slow them down for a moment or two, but every 5 or 10 seconds, my entire life, I have them. It just, I don't know what it's like to be steady. One of the tests was a spiral, and you had to take your pencil and go in the spiral around and follow it. And I was doing it at first really good, going around, and they said, oh, no, you got to have your wrist off of the table. And it was like, oh. And then you're going around, and yeah, that didn't go so well. I think they could tell what was wrong then. No, but they were very helpful, and I'm grateful to have doctors that I've had a couple that I've been lucky to have now. One that spotted the rheumatoid arthritis and knew the test to do, and even though it wasn't his specialty, and I got to the right doctor, and that's working out good. And now this one I'm very glad to have her as a doctor, that she seemed very nice, even though she kept saying, because I do have low tolerance to a lot of drugs and stuff, even drinking. It takes me very little to get tipsy. I'm a cheap drunk. But she said, oh, we'll put you on the really low dose. She said, we'll put you on the baby dose. She kept saying baby dose. It's like, I don't know if I want to call it the baby dose, but that's what we're starting at. And we'll see if that helps any of this. And I'm not so worried about treating it like that. I mean, if there is a pill, I would gladly take it if I can not have this, happen to me. If I can get over this, be somewhat normal. There's a lot of other things that I'm not normal about. But just to get by this one thing and not have that to worry about would be huge. And I'll try some stuff. I won't go too far. There's a couple. She talked different medications, and even she didn't think the one I should try, and so that would be, worse than what I'm dealing with now. So, because I know it's not as bad as it could be, and I try not to look at myself as being, I hate the word disabled, but at times there's things I just cannot do, like, like some people can't do, get up and walk. I can do that, but there are things I can't do that take steadiness. That operation game, that as a kid, oh man, that was horrible. But there are things I can do, and especially if I get some other parts of this under control, and you know, and I'm trying to be fairly open with you, telling you what I'm going through. It's not the easiest thing, but it's kind of better than the alternative. For many years, I just held it in, tried not to think about it, and this is better. I really do thank you for if you've made it through this whole thing, and we'll get this farther ahead. Hopefully I'll be ready to put canvas on it. Maybe I'll show you a little of that, have the head carved and the tail better, so that can all be put on. The head will go on after the canvas is all on. But maybe before. I don't know, I'll decide when I get that far. But maybe in the heat the next few days I'll get working on this a lot and get to where this can be finished and have that solid frame underneath. Get a good foundation going. Just want to remind you, as Louis Armstrong said, it's a wonderful world. Thank you for watching. Till next time, take care.